Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Guildmaster Gaming. Today we are talking with Luke's, I almost said it wrong, Luke
You're
Salewski.
good.
See, that's the fun thing about doing this way. I even made sure I asked you how to pronounce it because of the W, and we have determined the W is silent. So, and
Yes.
your film, The Lights Above. So, Luke, please tell us about yourself and what you'd like us to know about your film.
Well, yeah, my name's Luke. I'm originally from Idaho, relocated to LA area, and I've been a filmmaker there for the last decade. And I recently graduated from USC. So this film was actually my thesis film, my final film project at the school there. And it's kind of a hybrid genre, thing. It takes place in the 40s, and it's inspired by an event, a true event called the Battle of LA, which happened months after Pearl Harbor. And basically, unidentified aircraft were spotted over Los Angeles, and now a journalist is determined to figure out if this is another impending attack by Japan on the U.S. Um, so yeah, that's kind of the nutshell of it. But obviously, it has many more layers to it. He ends up going on to investigate further and kind of has to team up with a Japanese American photographer um, reluctantly. So yeah.
So we know it's a genre film, so we won't give away the twist. So we'll kind of go on that. But the other part about it is I notice, you are doing a lot of like in-depth character stuff because
Yeah.
it's okay, 1942. It's after Pearl Harbor. It's with a Japanese photographer. There's, the talk about the internment, the loss in Pearl Harbor, a lot of
Yeah.
deep stuff there. Did you find that kind of an emotional base for you, or is this something from try not to be too direct about this. Is this something that was inspired by events that you or your family or other people kind of brought up, or what truly just what inspired you for the film?
So honestly, the thing that inspired me was seeing this original image of the Battle of Los Angeles, and you can just type it in on Google, and there's this one photograph, black and white photograph of it that went all over the press at the time, and just it's just such a breathtaking image, and it just like arrests you, and you're just like, is this is a real photo? Like this is a real thing that was in newspapers. And when I learned about this event probably a decade ago or so, I just was like, I started going into a Wikipedia rabbit trail on it and everything, and digging up all the info I could. And I was just like, this is so fascinating. And there needs to be more stories told connected to this event. Um, and so through that, when I start building out the characters, I know that every great movie has the plot, but then they have the story, like they have the character story, and that to me really came through just doing research, and I was just like, what's going on at this exact moment in time? And at that exact moment was literally weeks after FDR had signed Executive Order 9066, which basically said that all people of Japanese ancestry in the West Coast had to be forcibly removed from the West Coast and put into internment camps, um, which is a really unfortunate blight on our country's history. Um, and it was, for me, it was less about dealing with the political aspects of that and more just, wow, that is like, what does that mean to one person to be in the middle of that, um, and how does it connect with the larger theme of just the mass fear and paranoia going on. And so that was really the inspiration for it. And I find that the more I do research on whatever film I'm working on, even if it's not a historical piece, that really informs me of a lot of story and characters.
Yeah, it's some pretty emotional stuff. I can say from my own point of view, I've had friends that their family and their descendants from family that were interned at Camp
Mm,
Topaz here in Utah. And
mm-hmm.
I've,
Yeah.
I've been there and looked at the camp and gone through the museum there, and it's and found their like their family names, and
Wow.
it's kind of hits. So I
Yeah.
understand where you're going with that. Now, you did this as your thesis, but you did a period piece instead of making it, right here and now. You said it back in the 1940s. Was there some particular, I mean, getting the look right? Did you run into any particular obstacles, or did you have some ins to get those things that you needed?
Well, I'm sure anyone who's made a period piece will say it's just limitless obstacles. But I really wanted everything you see in the frame to be period accurate as much as possible. And so we went to extensive lengths with my production design team, and with hair and makeup, wardrobe, all of that stuff, just to be as period accurate as we could. And so I would tell each of the department heads, hey, you guys, you got to do your research and really figure out, like, is what we're going to see, um, is that something believably that could exist there? Because I think the thing with a period piece is you're elevating your film to another level, and if you have one thing that just really stands out, the Starbucks coffee cup or whatever it might be, um, you have one thing that stands out and it just pulls people out of the film. And the worst thing you can do is make people remember that they're watching a movie, um, during the movie. So so yeah, we went to extensive lengths. My production design team was amazing, and I actually, like, multiple days, me and my producers, we hopped in a U-Haul with them, just driving all over LA, picking up like old furniture that you see in the film and things people were giving away for free. They went to like the Universal Prop House and got accurate props, um and then the big thing for us too was the car. The car was amazing, and that was actually uh, owned by the location manager, um, and so that car I think really helped sell it as well. And then shooting out in the desert makes it a little easier too because there's less stuff to see. So yeah.
I think shooting in the desert was a smart move, but I was very impressed with the two office scenes.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, that level of accuracy. I mean, right down to the typewriters and the bench, and the clothing was very well done. I'll give your props people good kudos for all of that.
Yeah, and the locations you mentioned too, those were a huge part of it. We scouted, like, so USC has a lot of buildings from the 20s and 30s, and so we actually spent multiple days, hours, just walking through random buildings. We're like walking into classrooms, people are like, who are you? Like, oh, sorry, wrong room, and we're just trying to find what looks like it could live in this time period, and not just look like it was built in the 40s, but like needs to look built in the 20s or earlier. um, and so the room that we used for the big office room, here's a fun fact about that is, I actually, after the fact that we got that room reserved, someone said, oh, did you know Chris Nolan scouted that for Oppenheimer, because he was originally looking at USC, shooting Oppenheimer at USC. And so someone sent me pictures that they had got through the window of Chris Nolan in that same room, and he ended up shooting at Berkeley for Oppenheimer. But it was really cool to be like, oh wow, like we were going for the same spot here. Um, so that was pretty neat.
Yeah,
Yeah,
developing the same look for the stories. That's
and
some
then
good stuff.
one of the rooms I'm most proud of that it looks is, and for whatever the viewers, when they watch the film, there's a dark room scene. So that scene, actually, we couldn't find a location for it. I wanted kind of a grungy closet look, and my producer had just moved into a new apartment and had an empty garage, and he was like, you guys can just like use my garage. So we like painted the garage, set decked it and everything, and it turned out so cool. So yeah.
Yeah, very well done and all that. So when looking at in your film, uh, it kind of leaves it off at a point. that you could continue on the story. Is there indications from you that are planning on building this story out further?
I mean, I would love to make this into a feature one day. And so that's really the ideal. And I do have ideas for like a sequel. Um, but I don't necessarily want to make a sequel short. I've not saying I will never make a short again, but like I'm at that stage in my career where I'm like, I really need to get out there and make a feature now. Um, but yeah, with this story, I would love to make it larger as a feature film, and I think there's a lot of other areas I'd like to explore in it that I wasn't able to for the short.
Okay. Now I looked it up on IMDb and I saw that it's showing that you produced it last year, got it out in 2023. So I'm kind of thinking, is this getting near the end of your festival run?
So it's funny. I hate IMDb. The film actually didn't release publicly until July of this year. Um, so while we did complete it end of 2023, we had a private screening. One of the people that went to the screening, I don't know who it was, added it on IMDb, and IMDb wouldn't let me remove it. I was like, this hasn't publicly premiered yet. And they're like, well, you have to give us proof of this and like prove that it wasn't a public screening and all this stuff. And like, so anyways, technically I would say it's about halfway through its festival run here. Because we're still hoping to hit a few more festivals in the first half of next year. But
Okay.
yeah, it's a 2024 release, but unfortunately IMDb will not let me amend that.
No, I've ran into that with other sites too. It's like once it's on there, it's become like a sense of gospel. And it's like, yeah, okay, fine.
Yeah.
Not really caring enough to make that change of 1 year.
Hmm.
So you've got that, you got the festival run going. So have you gotten any bites yet about distribution?
Um, Not yet, and it's not something I've been actively pursuing. I think, this is one of my first films to really hit the festival circuit hard with, so it's been more of a for me about learning like what are the festivals? What are they like? What do you do there? What how does it help your film or your career? So I'm still kind of figuring that whole world out. Um, but yeah, I think with shorts it's like I tend to focus on them less of like how can I fully distribute it and make money off of it, and more of how can this be um, part of my development in my career, and hopefully the careers of everyone involved in the film as well. um, so that's more for me, is to be a representation of this is what I like to make, this is what I can do. um, and hopefully that helps open doors, as well, like I said, when I move into making a feature.
Okay. So you mentioned about wanting to learn at festivals. Have you had a chance yet to go to some of the festivals that you've gotten into?
I have, yeah. And it's been really fun. We premiered at LA Shorts in downtown LA. That was really fun. Got a really good crowd out there. And then yeah, we've been doing quite a few different festivals. I went to one in Vermont. And the thing about festivals too is some of them you don't, there's so many out there. So you're like, how do I know what festival's worth the money to travel out to, and all of that stuff. And sometimes it feels like you're kind of rolling the dice, but relying on wisdom from other people that know some of these festivals, I've been so impressed with some of them. This festival in Vermont was absolutely spectacular, and then I've done another couple ones, and then yeah, Film Quest I've got coming up. Actually, next week I'm gonna be in Florida for the Naples International Film Festival. So I'm excited about that one as well. And I try to target the festivals too around like I have extended family in Naples, Florida. So I'm like, okay, I'll focus on like festivals that look like they're doing good stuff, but they're also in an area that I could feasibly get to, and it wouldn't be as hard on me. So,
Yeah,
yeah, but
it can be
I'm
quite the
really enjoying it.
expense.
I have a different film I just had at Holly Shorts a few weeks ago and absolutely loved that festival. Um,
Okay.
so I feel like I'm turning into a little bit of a festival guru now, where I can point my friends in certain directions, like stay away from this one, go to this one, you know. And a mark of a good festival too that I've realized is like that they truly value the filmmakers. They're not just trying to sell tickets. I realize that festivals have to make their money back, um, but it's like they're championing the art and the filmmaker versus just trying to make a buck. And there's definitely a clear distinction in festivals for that.
That is some good advice to kind of, the reason why I asked that is I think that's some good advice to kind of get out there to people. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and it applies in any type of artistic endeavor you're going after. If it's film, if it's, creating artwork, people that know me, books and games and that, um, all of it. It's finding the right market to show and showcase your stuff. That's good information. Thank you on that.
Yeah.
So you're, so if you're not kind of looking at distribution, when it finishes its festival, do you have plans to make this shareable so people can watch it?
Um, it's a good question. I haven't thought that far forward yet. Um,
Because I got to take notes on that one now.
yeah, I'm not totally sure. It's I do want to share it with more people. But I also don't necessarily want it to just fall into an attic in, in the ethers of the internet. So, if I could get it on a short film platform, I think that'd be fantastic. Um, but I don't know. I'm not overly keen on just like, okay, I'll just put it on YouTube, and hope that it hits big. Um, because if it's not pulling in a lot of viewership, then I'd rather almost keep it closer to my chest, and just
Mhm.
continue to share it where it's requested or where it's needed. Um, but yeah, I mean, Film Quest has talked a lot about distributors that they've had come to their screenings and that they work with. And honestly, that's the first time I've been really thinking about, oh, yeah, I should look more into this and what has been done before. I think what concerns me is, and this has been a little difficult getting into festivals even, is like some of the genre festivals don't like want my film. And I'm assuming why, but like my assumption is like, oh, well, maybe it's not heavily enough sci-fi or whatever. And because it does have some heavy drama elements too, but it's not fully a drama. So I think even with distribution, it's a little tough because it's like, well, do distributors want a film that's, usually they're looking for something that's full on horror, full on sci-fi. Um, Granted, I think that's something that makes this film unique is it's not 100% in one camp or another. And to me, that was something I set out to do intentionally. Was like, there's a screenwriter that I love, John Truby, and he talks a lot about like blending genres. He's like, the great thing about blending genres is you're giving people two movies for the price of one. They buy one ticket to your movie and they can see a sci-fi and a drama, or a comedy and a thriller, or like whatever it might be. And I think that's such a great way of looking at, filmmaking for your audience. And um, yeah, and that's what we do it all for, is we want to connect with an audience. So I
Yeah.
will do my homework on distribution stuff.
But, I think you make a really good point because some of the greatest, big films that have gone out there are not just straight one. And, talk about, science fiction and a story. I mean, they still classify one of the best horror movies made is the Alien movies.
Mm,
Uh,
mhm.
so, okay, there's science fiction and horror. It's
Yeah.
here we go together. So, kind of looking back on that, you were talking about this one screenwriter was an inspiration to you. Um, Growing up, what was the inspiration for you to become a filmmaker?
Um, I mean, I would bring it back to the original Star Wars movie. Really, my my name is Luke, and I was often called Luke Skywalker as a nickname, and I didn't know who that was. So I, was like, well, who's this Luke Skywalker character? And I grew up in the 90s. So the movies had been out and were out on VHS, and my parents bought it for me for one Christmas, and I just remember watching it with my family that first night, and it just blew my mind. It was like nothing I had ever seen or experienced. And it's funny how many people have a similar story of Star Wars changed my life. It's a testament to how incredible that film is, and how incredible, like, that even on a VHS on a 30-inch TV screen, you know, years after it had come out, it can still make such a huge impact. And for me, it was like, oh, I can, like, you can watch something and be transported to another place and time and something that doesn't exist. And that was so inspiring for me. So I grew up with all those classics, the original Star Wars, Indiana Jones, E.T., Jurassic Park, like all that Spielberg Lucas stuff is just like 100%, the thing that inspired me. And I'm sure you see hallmarks of it in my film as well.
Okay. Now, so now that you got this one done, what are you looking at to work on, next? What can we see coming from you?
So I don't know if this was a good choice or not, but I have three films in the festival circuit right now. So I have two other ones that are just kind of starting, and I'm, trying to push those out as well. So one of them is a short film about Jimmy Stewart. It also takes place in the 40s. It's actually right when he returns to Hollywood from World War II, and he's you know battling with some PTSD, and also just figuring out, how do I get back into Hollywood? How do I fit in again? And this is after he's already won an Academy Award, and he's been away for 4 or 5 years. So it's about that initial moment of him coming back um, to Hollywood. And then the other film I just did is called Audio Description. It highlights the accessibility component of a film, audio description, which is a voice narration track that narrates, for the blind and visually impaired, what is physically happening on screen. Um, and one of my closest friends, who's the producer and lead actor, he is visually impaired. So we collaborated together and made this short that's kind of a high concept comedy, where this character makes a wish that kind of goes wrong, and he starts to hear and interact with the audio describer for the film. And it's kind of a curse and a superpower almost. So um, yeah, that film has been doing really well. We played at Holly Shorts, and actually just this last week we played at Heartland in Indiana. So yeah, we've been getting into some good festivals with that one. So right now, that's kind of my focus, is just hitting all these festivals, and then I'm writing on the side. Writing multiple projects and trying to pick which one is going to be the one to start out the feature with. Um, so yeah, that's kind of where I'm at.
So you're kind of scattered all over the genres and styles. It sounds like it's a little bit
Yes.
of a biopic there, some comedies, some, sci-fi. That's gives a lot of opportunity. But if you're doing all those different things, and if you had an opportunity to work on a project that would be you would consider your dream project, be it your own or something else outside, called up to do, what would your dream project be?
Um, I have a lot. I mean, uh, I have a I so I'm generally, for the most part, I'm so sick of like sequels and just continuing on franchises. Even Star Wars, I'm like, I love the original Star Wars, but like, let's start some new franchises. So I have a franchise I would like to do, and that, like, that I would like to start. But if it came to like getting hired to direct on something, I have a really awesome idea for a Jurassic Park film, which would be a prequel. And I'm a huge Michael Crichton fan. The author is my favorite author, and I've read like all of his books many times. And so just drawing elements from his books, I have a prequel that if Universal is ever interested, I would love to make. So yeah.
Okay. So now we've talked about what you kind of do. What do you know, with all these different things you're doing right now, you're pretty busy. It sounds like traveling the country, hitting the festivals with 3 films. That takes a lot. Uh,
Yeah.
so what do you like to do to relax, to just kind of calm the brain and kind of step away from it all?
Yeah, I mean, I have a whole entire life outside of all that. I mean, I work freelance as an editor, motion graphics artist, and then I'm a new dad. I'm a husband. You know, I love doing outdoors activities like camping, hiking. I do rock climbing, like snowboarding is probably my favorite thing. Um, and yeah, I'm just, you know, I'm involved in my church and just with friends and trying to like stay sane. And I do think that's super crucial for filmmakers is like this whole industry and job is just constant up and down. And if you're not grounded outside of that, like you're not going to make it, you know? So, yeah, that's definitely a big thing is like even right now I'm just like once I finish this I'm gonna go take care of my baby and you know stuff like that definitely helps you remember you know what's really important in this world and how to stay sane and focused as a person and not just get caught up in the industry and everything.
So with all the things you've got going on, the different areas to look at, if people want to follow your work or find out where it's going, where can they find you online?
Yeah, so I have an Instagram, of course. It's Luke J. Salewski at Luke J. Salewski. And the last name is spelled Salewski. That's probably the best place. I do have also a portfolio, which is ljsfilm.myportfolio.com. And either of those spots I keep pretty regularly updated with what I'm up to.
Okay, so I'm going to finish up with one question for you, and you might have already thought that you've answered this because it kind of did. If you had someone come up to you and say, "Hey, I want to be a filmmaker," what advice would you give them?
Um, there's so many things. Yeah, I mean, it you know, there's like so many components to succeeding because it's like you've got to have talent, you've got to have hard work. Um, but there's also kind of an element of luck and that's just out of your control. But I think the more that you put yourself out there and get out there and show your work, I think that's crucial. And I spent so much of my career and my life just hiding the things that I made because I was scared of how the world would see it. And you know, making art is very vulnerable when you put your art out there. It's almost like you're standing naked in front of a crowd and just saying, "Judge me," you know? And it's so scary, but it's important. It's essential. And it connects you to the people, the audience, the people that you are making your work for. So, you know, that would be my biggest thing is just, I mean, submit your work to festivals. Like, don't just shelve it. Don't just put it on YouTube and hope that it goes somewhere. And if it doesn't go somewhere, you're just like, oh, well, nothing happened. Like, really try to make the most of what you make and don't just make it for you, you know, make it for someone. Have an audience in your mind um and seek to inspire or entertain. I think that if you pursue those things, you will tell good stories.
You know, I kind of agree with you on finishing up here and saying what you about putting it out there. One thing I've learned is every form of art has an audience.
Mm-hmm.
So every style has an audience. So yeah, get it out there. So I want to thank you for joining with us. I'm gonna one final thing before I close out. And that is, I just want to open it up to you and allow you to do a final statement, a final call out, anything you would like to say about what you're doing, the people you work with, what you got coming up, anything.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so first of all, I'm looking up the date right now, but Film Quest, my film The Lights Above is playing there November 1st, and I believe it's at 1 p.m. Don't quote me on that. I should have that time memorized, but I would love for anyone who's interested to come see the film. And I think you're gonna enjoy it. Even if it's not necessarily exactly your cup of tea, I still think that it'll feel like a unique and fun journey for you. So, um, yeah, that's my biggest thing is just please come watch the film. The best thing in the world is getting to share your films with people. So yeah, but thank you for your time, Dan. This has been awesome, and I'm honored to be interviewed by you.
Well, thank you for joining us. So, like he was saying, his film, The Lights Above, is on the festival circuit. Please get out and watch the independent films being made. There's a lot of creativity, a lot of fun stuff. And the one thing that Luke didn't mention is The Lights Above has been nominated at FilmQuest for Best Student Short. So,
Yes.
congratulations on that. That's if you understand the number of films that get submitted at FilmQuest, I think I heard this year was over 1,800. So to get in is one thing, and then to get nominated, another step above. Congratulations. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
joining us. And thank you, everybody. If you like what you're seeing here, please like it, share it out, and we will talk again soon.
Sounds awesome. Thanks, Dan.